Hi everyone, I'm Candace Barcher and today I'm going to be talking to you about the art of negotiation. So first, a quick overview is what to avoid while negotiating. I'm going to be talking about that first, and then the next thing is the 6 win-win negotiation tips to help you. So the 5 no-nos of negotiation. We should definitely be aware of the potential damage that can be caused by what we do or say when negotiating, and hopefully by avoiding these no-nos of negotiation, we can help to build relationships in sales rather than to damage them. So with that being said, we're going to talk about don't antagonize the person negotiating with, don't bluff, don't corner them, don't win the battle and risk losing the war, and don't forget to mend fences. So don't antagonize. It doesn't really make sense to antagonize somebody who doesn't really want, or is very iffy on whether they should buy something from you in the beginning. So rather than ridicule or use anger to force an issue onto them, we want to try and seek their support instead. The next one is don't bluff. Bluffing carries significant risk. It's very one-dimensional and there's no added value to what you're exchanging. And if you constantly bluff, people aren't going to trust you in the end, and that loss of trust is definitely something that we want to avoid when we're trying to maintain relationships with people. The next one is don't corner. When you corner somebody, they tend to feel very helpless, and nobody likes to feel helpless, so eventually they might harbor resentment by being forced into do something that they don't want to do. And then by that time, once they start to feel that, then they're probably going to sever the relationship with you because, again, it's a trust thing. They don't trust you, and they feel very uncomfortable. So we want to avoid that as well. The next one is don't win the battle and risk losing the war. It's fun to win. It's human nature to want to win. It's just relationships tend to get damaged when that's our main passion is winning. So we want to try and maintain our perspective when discussions get heated and pick the right battles to fight, much less win. And some battles are meant to be lost strategically to allow wars to be won. And the best way to assess this is to ask yourself, is it worth it? What are you going to be gaining from it, and what's the other person going to be losing? And if they're going to be losing significantly, especially if it's a significant loss, like their ego, for instance, then basically your win is just very trivial, and so we want to try and avoid that because it's never fun for that other person, especially if they're losing significantly as well. So. The next one, don't forget to mend fences. When, like the last one, with the ego, sometimes it does get in the way, and sometimes you want to gloat a little bit about your winnings. So what we don't want to do is inadvertently abuse the loser because we prevailed. So we want to try and mend that fence with that and try not to push it into their face. Haha, I won. So eventually this investment in the relationship will pay the dividends down the road. So don't forget to mend those fences. And then we're going to switch it up here into the 6 win-win negotiation tips. These would be that consist of patience, questions, listening, clarity, neutrality, and creativity. So patience. When you think of a salesperson, a lot of times people think that they have like hungry tattooed on their forehead. They're hungry for that sale. They want that sale. You can tell they're on commission, whatever the case may be. But a good salesperson can tend to hold back a little bit and to read the person that they're negotiating with and tell that even if a person is stalling, that it's your opportunity to give them more knowledge and to be patient, and instead of being really pushy with them. The next one is questions. questions establish prospects' needs. They clarify any issues that they might have. They can also help consider new alternatives for that person as well. And effective questions channel thoughts and guide decisions and lead to a greater understanding of what you're trying to sell them. One of the main things about questions, though, is that we want to avoid anxiety questions when you're doing your sales pitch. You want to make sure that you're not asking questions like this. How can anyone say that we don't have a good product? It just gives people anxiety. People don't know how to answer that question or questions like that. So we want to avoid that. And instead, we want to offer unique solutions. Listening. We want to listen carefully. We want to avoid interruptions and contradictions. And we want to evaluate what the other person said before you respond back to that. And we want to know that there's always room for change. So we want to have an open attitude about what they're saying as well. The next one is clarity. We want to make sure that we communicate clearly and avoid using technical terms and cliches. This one is probably a hard one for me too, because I know so many little acronyms and stuff that you could use, but you want to avoid using those technical terms and cliches because it makes that person feel like they're not as smart to what you're trying to sell. And also, when you use those terms, I think that for the next 5 minutes that you're talking to them, all they're trying to do is figure it out. So it's very distracting. So we want to try and stay away from that. And we want to make sure that we communicate clearly. And then neutrality. Avoid value judgments and use neutral descriptive terms to describe what you're trying to sell. And finally, creativity. Use creativity when price becomes a sticking point. Price is always one of those that can get you in the end. So offer improved delivery rates, group prices, package deals, extended terms, training, creative payment plans, whatever the case may be, and let them know that there is going to be savings and value at the end.